Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Notando and I make videos on construction, lifestyle and travel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for tuning back in. Please do not forget to like the video. So on today's video, I am tackling a very frequently asked question. I don't know why I never answered this question because I have been to a few QS interviews. But I think I was really afraid of giving you like false information or giving you like a template only for your interview to go a different way. But preparation is crucial, and in this video I just want to break down how you can prepare for your QS interview. So first things first, it is important to understand the role in which you're interviewing for. There are about 4 types of roles that a QS can do. You get a pre-contract role, post-contract role, or both. Sometimes it's both. You also get contractor QS and a client QS or consulting QS. So depending on the job description and what they're looking for, you need to be very, very cognizant of the type of role that you have applied for and make sure that you're prepared for the right role in which you're going to be going into. I would love to go into the different roles that a pre-contract, post-contract and contractor QS, consulting QS do, but that might make this video too long. But if you are interested in those differences and you want me to dive more into that, please comment down below and let me know, and then I'll do another video just focusing just on that. But yeah, make sure that you're prepared and you understand what the role requires of you. Some QSs are estimators, so you might be required to do estimating and procurement. Some QSs just do, let's say, tenders and feasibility studies. Some QSs do post-contract, so you just manage the contractors, subcontractors, and everything that happens on site, like variations and stuff. And then some QSs are with the client, so you get to, yeah, that's what you do. So depending on the role that you have applied for, all of this information is very crucial. Lucky for you, usually before you even apply for the role, it is in the description. Good, so this is what we're going to need from you. This is the type of QS that we're looking for. These are the roles and responsibilities that you'll be tackling. So just make sure that you are prepared and you know exactly and you understand what the role requires of you. Research the company. This is 101, interview 101. You go on Google, you put in the company's name, you go to the website, you go through the jobs that they've done, you go through their achievements, you go through financials, you go through projects that they've done, you go through maybe even the hierarchy of the people that you'll be working with, through the company, research the company. This will also be very helpful towards the end of the interview when they ask you a question. You can then mention something that you spotted on the website. Maybe they worked on a very interesting project. You can ask about that. Maybe you're personally interested in like green building and things like that, and you realize that they worked on a project that was rated like 5-star green tri-star rating. I don't know what they're called. So you can mention that and say that I see you guys worked on this. How was working on that? I see you guys work on a lot of projects that are like this. Why is that? Or, you know, so research the company and jot down things that stand out to you and things that you'd want a bit more clarification or insight on. This can also help you figure out what types of projects you would like to be part of, or you can hint. So maybe when you're looking at them and you see they do a lot of like high-rise hotel buildings or commercial buildings, and then you're more of like a mall girl or guy and you'd like to work in buildings, or maybe they have a lot of civil works like rail work and you would love to expand in that. So yeah, do your research and see what you can hint on, what you can ask about, and it also looks like you're very interested in the company. It's good. Also, another thing that you need to look on when you research the company is their core values. Some companies will have it like as an acronym, like our core values are POW, powerful, overachievers, and winners. So you must know, like, yeah, I see your company is about winners. I myself am a winner. So funny. That is so funny because I love to win. And I just resonated with that core value of yours, you know? Well, obviously not like that, but like you see where I'm going. Like, you know, do the research. It's also very impressive for them. Also makes you sticks out, and it's like one of the basics that you need to do. Duh. Common QS interview questions and how to answer them. So under this heading, there's like 4 parts. You get technical questions, you get behavioral questions, and then you also get scenario-based questions. Technical questions usually are very QS specific or role specific. So you'd be asked questions like, what is the role of a QS when it comes to cost control? You'd be asked, explain the difference between pre-contract and post-contract work. How do you prepare a bill of quantities? Those things like that. What procurement method have you worked with? Yeah, so those are the type of technical questions that you can expect. Obviously, try to find as many as you can so that you're as prepared as possible. And then you'll get behavioral questions. Behavioral questions consist of questions like, describe a time you handled a difficult contractor or client. The other one would be, how do you manage deadlines under pressure? So behavioral questions are there to test how you have handled hard situations. So we have like a little anecdote ready to talk about the time you managed like a hard situation, the time maybe you had like 5 deadlines in 1 week and how you dealt with that. Another one that I can think of is, sometimes they ask you in a positive way, like what project or when did you feel the most accomplished as a quantity surveyor? What work did you do that made you feel like, oh my gosh, hello, I'm good at this? And then you can now like brag a little about work that you've done, how you saved costs there, how you negotiated lower rates here. Behavioral questions are there to see how you are, usually under pressure or difficult situations. So think about those. Write them down. Not everything, you can't say I've never had a difficult client or I've never had. If you've never had, I don't know, no, think about a hard time and also a great time that you've had in the QSing industry so that you have an anecdote or a little story that you can share about how you handled a tough deadline, tough client, tough contractor, tough subcontractor, whatever you've dealt with, and when you felt the most alive. They'll also ask you scenario-based questions. So these questions usually consist of, you notice a discrepancy in a BOQ, how do you handle it? Or a contractor submits a variation for a claim, how would you assess that this is valid? Just before I digress too much, being a QS is predominantly managing variations to a contract. Because yes, the pre-contract stage happens, a contract is awarded, yay, we have a budget, and this is how things are supposed to go. And then things never go that way. So you as a QS are there to protect the money, to make sure that funds are paid for valid things, to monitor the changes as well. So it's very, very important to know that part of QSing. Like you need to know and keep on track the variations that keep happening. Sometimes design changes, sometimes the scope changes, sometimes there's random delays that happen on sites, sometimes the site conditions aren't what they thought they'd be, or the design is not working practically. So as a QS, your job is to make sure that you're on top of the variations. And the best way maybe you can answer a question about how you handle variations is just making sure that you involve every party that's involved. Yes. So you reach out to the planner if it's a time delay, you reach out to the engineer if it's a design delay or design change, just to confirm that variation. And then cost-wise, obviously, you'll do your benchmarking and make sure that the rates in which this change is being presented to you are legit and valid. So those are the type of questions that you can expect for scenario-based questions. They probably will have much more. Maybe a contractor lies to you about something. How do you then work around that? Or you've made a mistake. How do you work around fixing that mistake? This also showcases your skills. Do you follow the contract, especially the one about the discrepancy in the BOQ? How are you going to make that? You forgot to account for a certain thing and then now it pops up on site. What are you going to do? Are you going to let the client know? Are you going to go out for tendering? Are you going to do a variation? Are you going to find the money elsewhere? What does your contract say? What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? So you need to know your contract, you know your job, know your QSing capabilities, your limits, your boundaries, and ways in which you can work around the contract. So think about that as well. When going to the interview, make sure you brush up on your technical skills. This is knowing the standard system of measurements. Know how certain things are measured, know what units are used for certain things, know the standard system and how certain things are measured. They might ask you a question on that. Know your SANS. If it's a civil project, know how that works in SANS. Brush up on that if the scope requires you to know. Know your contract types as well. JBCC, NEC, FIDIC, what's the other one? GCC, etc. Never really a big question. You can just check what the company itself predominantly uses and then focus on that contract, but it's always good to just know the basics of all the contract. If they maybe ask you, so what's the difference if we're working with the GCC contract versus the fitted contract and we're handling this type of situation? What clause would you then use to grant a contractor a compensation event? So things like that. Know your contracts and also research the company and know what type of contract they predominantly use so that you're well versed in that. And if you aren't, you must say as well that this is the experience that you have so far, but these are the steps that you're taking to learn this type of contract because you've picked up that that's what the company predominantly uses. So yeah, be honest and do as much research as possible, but also be prepared and do your own research so that you're prepared when it comes to that. And then revise on like cost estimation, value engineering, and tendering procedures. Obviously, again, depending on the role that you've applied for. But things that you might find as a duh, that's obvious. Go through them in your head, go through what the steps are, because you might be asked to like, so what is your, how do you do a tender process, you know? How do you do a feasibility study? What do you start with? How do you do a compensation event in the NEC? What parts, how many parts does a project manager's instruct PMI have versus a compensation event have, like, you know? So just freshen up on the things that you do on a daily, write them down, freshen them up, and practice articulating the steps as clearly as possible. Because yes, you might know the work, it might be in your CV, but in an interview you're required to talk about what you do know and also show that you know and show that you understand. Sometimes they'll even ask you like a trick question about a certain contract, and they'll be like, yeah, so in the NEC, you know, when there's a delay like this, how is that handled? Do you do A or do you do B? Just to catch you out, and you must know. You must know those type of things. What to bring to an interview? Number one, dress professionally. Even if it's on Zoom, on Team, or whatever, dress professionally. Switch on your camera so that they see your face. Usually you are required to switch on your camera. Dress very professionally. My friend told me about her friend who had an interview with a company that had like multiple rounds of interviews, and they literally told the friend at the end that the reason that we went with you was because you, out of all the candidates, stayed consistent in the way you dressed for the interview. So some people, if they said, okay, you're through to round 2, you're through to round 3, they started relaxing a little bit, wearing, you know, but wear your suit, wear your blazer, get your hair right, whether the interview is on a Sunday, on a Tuesday, on a Monday, after work, before work, look professional. It says a lot about you. It says a lot about how you're willing to show up. A lot of the time you're judged by your appearance, so look neat and professional at all costs. So yeah, that's very important. Bring a notepad if it's an in-person interview, a calculator, if you might be required to do some takeoffs and stuff. Luckily, I've never been in an interview that's required me to do like technical measuring and stuff like that. But I remember when I was a student and I was shadowing at a consulting firm, they were having interviews there, and literally they'd be asking the receptionist to like print a drawing, and they were going to give the person who's in the boardroom like a drawing. So if you bring your own calculator, at least you're not asking for too many things. You're working with tools that you're familiar with, maybe even your own scale ruler if you're requested to like do some takeoffs. So bring your stuff that makes you feel comfortable and confident in the work that you're doing. You might be required to literally do a takeoff of a building or do something, so be prepared for that. In case you're asked that, it's always good to use your own thing so that you also seem like a very well equipped quantity surveyor and that's ready to get on the job. Like, hire me now. I don't need to even go home. Like, look, we've already started. Just get me in. So yeah, that's very important. And then depending on what they've asked for, obviously have your CVs, your certified copies of your stuff always ready, because you never know what they need. And then lastly, be confident and remember to ask questions at the end. Usually though, companies are or people who do interviews are so used to people asking questions that before the interview starts, they'll bombard you with so much information that it might answer all the questions that you have. This is why I think doing the research is important in the beginning, so that even if you don't have like a question specifically about the company, you can have a question about something that interests you. So you can go back to the whole, oh, I saw you guys worked on a green building that was 5-star. I really would love to work on projects more. Like, can you tell me more about that? Because it's such a unique thing or a concept in South Africa, or whichever country you're in, you're watching this from. Can you let me know more about that? Or you can maybe say, I see you guys work a lot with this contract. Would I need to then go for training or whatever? Just have a question at the end, and also just mention things that have interested you about the company. It is important to have that last little question. Soft skills matter. QSing and communication is very, very important. QSs work with a lot of people in the team. You work with the engineer, you work with the contractor that's doing the work, you work with the project manager, you work with the commercial team, you work with so many people, you work with the suppliers, the procurement team. So it is important to have good communication skills. Soft skills are very, very important. So work on these and maybe highlight what your style of communication is and how effective it has been in you being a QS so far. How you're good at paying attention to detail. Very, very good. Soft skill when it comes to that. How you grasp concepts fast. How you're good with talking to people. Usually as a QS, you need to negotiate a lot. Sometimes it comes with a lot of fights within the team as well, because everybody's pulling a different direction and you need things to be done in a certain way. Sometimes things are done, let's say, on site without informing you, which then affects the cost later on, but the work is already done. So things like that, you need to work on your communication, be assertive with the people that you need to be assertive with, be soft with the people that you need to be soft with. Also, depending on where you're going to work, I noticed that when I was on site and I was working more with subcontractors, being able to speak their language, literally, this could be something that you mentioned, like being able to speak isiZulu or Sesotho with the various subcontractors was very, very helpful, because a lot of them usually are like SMMEs, like small companies that are doing the work. So being able to communicate what's required of them and what I need from them and the work, how things are done, literally is a very important skill to have. And also being multilingual could be what works for you, because you can speak Zulu, you can speak Sotho, depending on where the project is. So don't overlook those little soft skills that you have. Highlight it as well, that maybe at a job that you were in, you're working in Limpopo and you are Pedi, and speaking Sepedi, you related a bit more with the contractor, so things ran a bit more smoothly because you could literally speak their language. These are little things that you can just mention and say how they've worked for you. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and if you're watching this video and you have tips that I have not mentioned in this video, please comment them down below so that we can all get the job, guys. Comment down what's worked for you. Comment down questions that might have shocked you at an interview. Comment skills that you didn't think, or questions that you didn't think questions that you didn't think you'd be asked, and what you think got you the interview. You can even comment what you think made you not get the interview. I'm so curious. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Yeah, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you later in another video.